Okay, hello. Sorry for the delay. I had things set up perfectly and then it all fell apart. Anyway, hi, let's start again. I'm Catherine. Nice to see all of these lovely shining faces in class. So much nicer than big black squares. Any questions on what we've done to date? Nothing. Everything's totally clear. Well, I've done an excellent job, obviously. So I've got a few students online here, so I don't want to go too far away. I'm not really sure. I'm just going to wander over here, Laura, and if you, when I come back, I'll just ask you if you can still hear me, just for the sake. Okay. All right.
Sounds good.
So some of you may have an interview coming up. Does that apply to any of you? Yes. Are you excited? Let's see some excitement. Yes, yes. Anyway, because we don't get to the interviewing section of Tuku until after your interview, I thought we'd devote one of the FAQ Fridays. So when I walked over there, was that okay, Laura?
Yep, yeah, I can still hear you.
Perfect. All right, thanks. I think I'm good now. I mean, stay on if you like, but also feel free to do whatever you need to. Okay. So this is a session we're going to hold this afternoon. There's a lot of people registered. This is a session for you to ask questions, okay? I don't want to blab on at you for an hour because you've got enough of that. But this is a time where you can be very specific to yourself and just ask the questions, because I'm sure the questions you have are going to be the same as the person sitting next to you, for sure. So why not share that all together? Okay, so another thing I wanted to draw your attention to was, now it's not going to do it. Can't move my slide deck. Can't move my slide deck. How do I do that? Maybe I have to do it from Zoom. Okay, so you're still seeing the slide deck, right, Laura? Okay.
Yes, yes.
Here it is. Okay, I think I'm good now. Okay.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, the other thing that I wanted to bring your attention to, and I think I may have mentioned this in class and potentially on Avenue as well. This is kind of last summer in the context of my Master's of Education, I took a course on critical reflection in education, and I realized that I haven't really been doing a lot of pausing to think about what we do and how we do it. And I thought, wow, that would really help inform my best practices and what I do in class and how we develop this. And it just happens that our office actually is undergoing, you know, a little bit of fluctuation, some by choice, some people moving on, some just happenstance. But these types of circumstances are often a time when we reconsider things, how we do things. And so I really like to pause at sort of the midway point of Science 2 COO and ask what your thoughts are. Tell us what you're thinking. You know, what worked for you? What didn't work for you? You know, what might you do differently? Do you have some great ideas? You guys, I'm sure, have really creative, great ideas. And the thing is, you can help make this course better for future students. Other faculties do a similar type of course. For instance, engineering does it for their co-op students, but it's just all online. You don't talk to anybody, you don't meet anybody, you don't get any interactive assignments or activities. And that's one choice. And the thing is, that's kind of where we're at right now, is do we continue rolling it out like this? Is it useful? Is it meaningful? Is it relevant? Or could we consider a different approach? So what you tell us is very important because you're our client. So take a few minutes just to do this feedback. I'll try to put the link up on Avenue for you so that you have it right there. It will only take 5 minutes top. Anyway, I hope you're all having a good week. This is my homage to Valentine's Day. I brought treats in for my team. Sorry, I didn't have enough for everybody, but so I just want to also make mention that this survey is voluntary. It's absolutely anonymous, and I am very grateful if you could do that for us. So today's lesson is all about job search strategies. And I apologize in advance because this is the most boring of all of our lectures. It's kind of just me yakking at you, a whole lot of websites. There's not a lot of input here. So I apologize in advance. And again, here's where your creative input could really help us. How can we approach this differently? And in fact, I think this one works better online, to be honest, because then we can look at some websites together and kind of go down a few rabbit holes. But if, as you can tell already, if I push a button, I'm in tech trouble for sure. So we won't do that. But so let me just ask you, how many of you currently have a job? Currently work? Full-time, part-time? Yeah, quite a few. And so do you consider that your job is degree relevant? Is it related to your degree for those who work? I don't see any hands. Yeah, and I mean, the thing is, that's where we all start. Work experience, regardless of what it is important, okay? It helps develop our work ethic. So, it doesn't really matter whether you see it as directly relevant to your studies. It's still important things. It's still an important experience. And there's all kinds of things that we can get out of those experiences, like, practicing communication skills, working with your team, working under tyrant bosses, always having to stay busy and keep going and organize your time, right? So there's all kinds of transferable traits that you can pull from any job, which you will take to your next job. So what is job searching exactly? I think it's really basically about looking for the opportunity that you want, whatever it is. But because for finances, or you want something on your resume, but I would argue that job searching actually it's actually an exercise that I often suggest to students who aren't sure where they're going. Because if you look at career sites of organizations that interest you, for instance, you can look at what kind of people they're hiring. What are the roles? What are the qualifications? What are the duties? And you may find your dream job. Okay, that's possible. And you say, hey, that's what I want to do. How do I do that? You read the qualifications. You've got your checklist right there. So sometimes looking for a job isn't necessarily that you're actually looking for a job. You're just looking at the market, okay? You're doing some market research. So job search fundamentals. We've already covered a lot of these. The preparation, we've done your resume, cover letters. We talked about LinkedIn profile. We've talked about a little bit about making contacts. And now it's time to apply and follow up. So actually, with regard to resume, I just want to show up hands here. Laura came into the other two classes this week, but she's working from home today. So how many of you have actually had your resume reviewed with Laura? Wow, that's fantastic. She hit the 100 mark yesterday. You guys are great. Thank you so much for getting these done quickly, not leaving it to the end of the semester. So anyway, so we've already done a lot of these things. So job search strategies. You see the little triangle at the top? This is advertisements and job boards. And that's where pretty much everybody in this room, including me, that's where we're going to start. What's out there? Oh, I'll look at the job board, right? Okay. See how small it is? It's a very, very tiny portion of this job search strategy here. So as you look down here, we, the people who want the job, are looking for jobs in this direction. We start at the top and work our way to the bottom. However, if you're an employer, you're going to do it the other way around. And where you're going to start is internal promotions, lateral moves, temps, consultants. Because I tell you, hiring somebody, especially in a big organization like this, I tell you, it's a pain in the butt. There are so many hoops, you have to jump through red tape, you have to go through permissions and forms, and then when you get all of that done, then you have to select your candidates, and then you have to interview them, make decisions. It's a long process, and sometimes we need people right away. So I've seen firsthand in my work here at MAC, when we have an opening, we say, is there anybody we have with us right now who could potentially fill this gap for us? Okay. So, so Laura's a really good example of this. Laura was doing a practicum for a course that she's doing in careers at Conestoga. And Laura came, and she was just, as a co-op student would do a term, she was doing a term with us here at the Vassar, helping us at the Tuku. And we realized that we still had funding continuing until the end of March. So we thought, wouldn't it be great if we still had somebody to help us with Tuku? And we go out and search again? No, because like Laura, she works hard, she's very helpful, she's very supportive of students. And we thought, let's see if Laura can do it, okay? So we didn't have to do any more work than that, okay? That's why most things happen at this level, okay? It's not to say they all do, but then you go up and you're looking for contacts. So I might say to my colleagues over in the academic office, hey, you know what, we're hiring for this role. Do you know anybody who's interested? That's when I start asking around. Maybe I might ask the other career practitioners on campus. Do you guys know of anybody? Because I mean, knowing that you know someone that I know is a very powerful reason to hire somebody. And that's just the way it is. So then networking, word of mouth, professional organizations, and recruitment agencies. So you can see as the job searchers, we are mostly just hitting the very top of this figure. And by this figure, I think it's triangle, but according to your quiz today on Avenue, it is actually a pyramid. So that's the answer to this quiz. Did everybody online hear that as well? Is that the pyramid is the answer to the quiz? Okay, so a few thoughts on when to apply. I mean, there's no really rigid rules around this. And I am a firm believer myself that it's never too early and it's never too late to start thinking about it. Sometimes we just don't think about things in advance sometimes. And all of a sudden we go, oh, shoot, I should have been thinking ahead about that. And that's okay, we'll do that next time. But when it comes to job searching, if you're looking for a summer job, that's the biggest competition area because all university and college students are mostly free, right? So you're out there pounding the pavement, looking for something, hopefully that's degree relevant, but something to do with some money in your pocket. But I will say that summer opportunities come up quickly sometimes and early, okay? So you might even see them in December. I don't know if any of you are familiar, but most of, say, hospitals, like local hospitals, all the hospitals in Toronto, they have these summer studentship programs that have kind of been on ice because of COVID. They're back on track again. So they're great programs. It's all meant for student training, student learning, and yet they're all gone now. There may be one still open. Okay, so they come up in December and they disappear in January. The deadlines are very fast. So you have to be thinking ahead for those types of activities. And yet, as I said, it's never too late. Opportunities unfold all the time. I do see it everywhere around us. You know, suddenly we have a gap. Oh, we need to fill that gap. Other timing around employment, seasonal holiday type of employment, of course, that happens just before Christmas. If you're looking for research, grad studies kind of thing, again, early is probably better, but again, it's never too late. So as soon as you have an idea of what you might want to do in graduate studies or in research practicum or thesis, it's good to start having those conversations, planting the seeds with the faculty you are interested in working with. Do it early. And then there's graduation. Where are you going to be working when you graduate? And I'm going to say, do we have any math and stats and AFM students? Okay, yeah, quite a few. So you guys are the most lucky, I'm going to say, because the typical employers for math and stats and AFM students aggressively recruit. So if you look on Oscar Plus in September, actually look, you can look now, because a lot of the companies here, but in September, that's their normal time when pretty much every bank, every insurance company, mostly who are hiring those types of students, they usually have an event on campus. Now, obviously the last 2 years they've been online, but hopefully by September they might be back again. And the nice thing is they usually hold them over in Groot or some nice spot. They usually have a lunch and have a coffee. But it's your opportunity to actually connect and meet people and impress them. And I have known students who in that 10-minute chat got an offer of a job when they graduated. So there's all kinds of employer engagement that not just the faculty of science brings on, but the Student Success Center as well. Okay? But I say that's especially important for those particular streams of students. And not to say that other employers aren't coming to campus too. They may, there's just not as many opportunities. But keep your eyes on those boards and attend. You never know when you're going to have a conversation that leads someone. Okay, so this is a bit of a catch-22 here. I can't get hired because I don't have experience. I don't have experience because I can't get hired. And this is where, and I've talked about this before with you. Don't just think of yourselves as your degree. We've all got rich experiences in so many areas and facets of your life. Think broadly, think holistically. Think about the life experiences. Are you an athlete? Are you a dancer? Are you a musician, an artist, a community member, a churchgoer, a club member? All of those things give you opportunities, maybe opportunities to strengthen your, or to acquire leadership skills or communication or collaboration skills. So don't just think about what have I done in the classroom? What has my formal education given me? Think bigger than that when you're looking at the job description. Again, hobbies and interests. And this can be a time when you can invest some creativity into your cover letter. And if you don't have formal education that's on your resume that is to meet a certain job criteria, but you do have personal experiences, but the personal experiences, you're not going to put those on your resume. But this is an ideal time to insert those sorts of things. Do you remember when we were talking about cover letters and reading between the lines? When we looked at the environment side job, they didn't ask about fitness or comfort with camping or first aid skills. Those are all things that you might have had personally that you would put in your cover letter, but they're not on your resume. So think broadly. Think about all your experiences. So some places to start your search. So, pardon me. Sorry. So I'm sure most of you have gone looking at some job sites. So there are some major ones that you may or may not be aware of. So has anybody ever checked out the Oscar Plus job? Okay, quite a few of you. So the Faculty of Science has an Oscar Plus job board. However, that is just for co-op students. None of you can see it until you become a co-op student. It is dedicated. They're the only people who can see that board. However, Student Success Center on Oscar Plus, if you go to Student Success Center, there is a jobs, employment tab. Now, these are very, very broad categories, but all of the work has been done by master staff. So you have to use your filters to try to narrow down the search, because I think if you look on there now, there's like 800 and some jobs that are listed, but they're everything, everything from A to Z. But it is a handy place to look for sure for jobs. Another place, and it's actually not on the slide, I should add it. On Mosaic, there is a tab. If you look at careers, there's a tab called student work. So this is only for students who are on financial assistance. And if you're just even the smallest of loan that you have, it doesn't have to be full assistance. These jobs are only available to students with financial need. But during the year, most of the jobs that are on there are 10 hours a week, something like that. But during the summer, they're full-time jobs. And this is the time to be looking. So if that applies to any of you, look on Mosaic and look at that website, because I think February 15th is the day that jobs needed to be posted for the summer. Anyway, just something to think about. So there are big search engines like Indeed and Alumni, of course. There's Job Bank of Canada, and I'm going to show you that one specifically in a minute. whoplusyou.com, of course, there's LinkedIn, Charity Village is all nonprofits, and of course you can do a Google job search as well. And then there's Petri Dish and Job Prospect. So there's all kinds of them out there, and this, like social media, they seem to spring up overnight. Other useful job boards that you might consider would be professional organizations that are associated with your degree or your profession. Pretty much every profession has 1, 2, 3, 4, sometimes more organizations that are affiliated with that credential. So they all have their own job boards. This is a place where you can look at careers. Oops, did it again. No, this is what I wanted to bring your attention to. Okay, so the Government of Canada website here, this is going to help you with your reflection this week. This isn't the best job board because it's not very comprehensive, but what it does have is information around market research. So in your reflection, you're asked to take the job that you've chosen at the beginning. And what is the demand for that job? What is the likelihood that I could find a job, find employment in that when I graduate? What is the sector? Is it healthcare? Is it industry? Is it pharmacy? Is it, environmental side? So it gives you all of that information. I just find it's pretty helpful. And you may see that, some professions, you might have a really good chance of being employed in Ontario, but not in Newfoundland, for instance. So it breaks it down by province, and you can get typical salaries, you get general qualifications, just useful information. So this website should help you, jobbank.gc.ca. This should help you with your assignment and your reflection this week. These are just a number of professional organizations that you might check into. And this is an example of what preparation could look like. This is basically your assignment. So if you're in actuarial science, you've already got it done, right? So labor market, there's a link to the labor market there. And that comes from the Government of Canada job sector. What sector is it? It's business or finance, banking sector. Professional organizations, here are two: Society of Actuaries and the Canadian Institute of Actuaries. And then there's companies, you're asked to find companies that might hire that particular professional. And then some ideas around how you connect and engage with those societies, with professionals in that area. So, as I said, looking for a job can be a really big job, okay? So think ahead to this. Think ahead to many of you will become co-op students. You will be going to school full-time. You will also be looking for a job. It's almost like doing another course. It can be very time-consuming. So I suggest use whatever strategies that help you organize, studying however you work. For me, I put it in my calendar. So Friday afternoon between 2 and 4, I've got all of my places where I look at their job pages bookmarked. I just go through them, 1, 2, 3, 4, and make notes, and maybe set a goal, especially if you're looking for something in the summer. Say, I want to apply for 2 jobs every week. find 2 jobs, apply for them, okay? It is a lot of work. You really have to do a lot of exploration around this. And then once you meet your goal, certainly celebrate. So in a couple of weeks, we're going to talk about networking and connections, but I do want to reinforce that here. From Forbes here, it says up to 80% of hires are in the hidden job market, okay? Just as we talked about with the triangle earlier, they're just not seen from above. So the iceberg here does a good job of replicating that. So there's so much that you can't see, don't see, unless you're connected with someone. So again, 75 to 80% of jobs are filled during the first 3 stages. And just to take an example, okay, the job doesn't exist. So think about my team. We're in a team meeting and we say, oh my God, that Oscar Plus is just so stupid. I can't get the, I can't get a list of employers out of there. Who are the employers who were hiring their students last June? I can't find that information. How do I extract it? And then we have an idea. Well, you know what? That sounds like something we could get the student to do. Okay, right. So the job does not exist, but now we're thinking about it. So there's no formal opportunity yet, but there's the possibility. And so maybe we start thinking about students doing that and people that we might bring into this. Has anybody expressed interest in doing something like this? Okay. But then we need money. So now we have to go to the dean, we have to ask Dr. McDonald, we make our case. We'd really like to bring a student in to do this. And then the dean, who is very supportive, says, yes, you can. So we've got we've got a formal thumbs up to post the job. But because this is all taking time, we've probably been thinking about different people. We've talked to different people over time, and we've probably got a pretty good idea of who we could bring in to do that. So does the job get advertised? Sometimes, sometimes not, because often it stops at 3 years. As soon as we get a formal yes for the approval from HR and the people above, we're set, but it doesn't necessarily get advertised. So connections. Connections are important. LinkedIn is going to help you connect with people. Connect with people you know, connect with people you know who know other people, connect with alumni. There's all kinds of creative things that you can do through LinkedIn. And then another way to connect is through the Alumni and Partners Advisor Network. This is a network of McMaster alumni who have all said, I love to talk to students. I love to share what I do and how I got here with students. So you can click on Get Advice, Give Advice. But if you click on Get Advice, if you have your LinkedIn profile, it's going to grab your profile and then it's just going to populate. So then you can start searching. Search for people with degrees that interest you. Or maybe somebody in a graduate program that you're curious about. Or maybe you want to see who are all the alumni who work at Sitkins, what do they do, how do they get there? And it's okay. These people have appointments. You can make it, you can talk to them, right? Be curious. So other ways to make connections are through, of course, through your volunteer activities, through summer jobs, through temporary work. And I know temp companies don't seem that frequent anymore. They're not really that mainstream, but they do exist. And I have a good example of Kelly services because when I worked at the College of Family Physicians of Canada, again, phase 1, no job exists. So I brought into this job and eventually, very quickly, I realized that this is a huge job and I'm not going to get anything done efficiently or effectively unless I have help and support. So stage 2, I bring it to my boss. If we want to follow the strategic plan that we've got set up here, we most definitely have to expand our services. So now we talk to human resources. We talk to our board of directors. Do we have permission? Okay, we get permission. All set, but the job's not advertised yet. And we were just poised to do that when the HR manager called and said, hey, you were going to post that job. She said, but I have somebody here from Kelly Services who was hired to do this work. But unfortunately, they weren't informed that the work didn't exist anymore. And they had showed up and they had nothing to do. She said, do you want to meet her? And I said, yeah, sure, whatever. Anyway, she was a student, a part-time student at York, and she was looking for part-time work from Kelly Services. And so 9 years later, we were still working together. Okay, it was just completely serendipitous that I met her through this temp. Of course, she didn't stay as a temp; she became a full-time employee, as I was. But again, this is a way to connect. If you're finding it difficult to get into places, this might be a really good place to start as well. So, informational interviews. It's not a job interview. It's as it says here, it's the process of interviewing someone about their career path to date. Okay. Has anyone ever had an informational interview? Yep. Could you tell us about it?
It wasn't like specific to like a job position. It was mostly research related. So I told them, cover your friends, and friends work out how they ended up in like certain grad programs or in specific positions that they're at.
Very good. That's exactly it. You talk to people who were in those positions to learn more about them. You were curious. There wasn't a position, but the thing is that if a position had come available, you might have been the first person they thought of. Oh, remember that student who came in to talk with us? Right? That's how it happens. The connections can be that simple. So many of you may have met my colleague Amr, and my current colleague in the office. I call Amr the poster boy of informational interviews, because when we had a need in our office, one of our staff was moving into another role and we needed a temporary fill. Do we go through that 4-month painful, agonizing process of trying to hire somebody? We would have, for sure. But then one of my colleagues said, there was this guy who came in for an informational interview. So he came in to talk to someone like me and wanted to know about, what is that career development as a relationship manager? How did you get there? What education do you need? What do you like about it? What do you hate about it? What do you do? And that was Elmer, right? And so when that came around, when this opportunity came around, someone said, well, what about that guy that came in here? We looked at his resume and we thought, yeah, he's a master graduate. Why not? So Amr's still with us. So again, it's that reaching out. Now, full disclosure, I have never, ever, ever had an informational interview. I would probably find that hard to reach out and put myself in that position. But I think if I was at your stage of professional development again, I think I would consider it much more strongly, because I really appreciate fully the value of being connected and trying to make these connections. So some questions you might ask in your informational interview are, what are the important skills that you need to perform your job? What's the education or experience required? Is there a typical career path in this field? What do you enjoy most? What are the main challenges? Okay. So those are all things to think about for an informational interview. An excellent way to get connected. Don't even think of it as an interview. Think of it as a chat. Be curious. Like upper level students, graduate students. Just start up a conversation. You never know what you can learn. So I just want to touch on this. It seems like it's weirdly placed here, but internship is a strange word. There's so many definitions and rules around internships. It depends on where you go. And in fact, I learned that at McMaster, different faculties have different rules around their internships, which is even more confusing. But some are paid, some are unpaid, okay, in the world. And I just wanted to let you know, I just wanted to go through a few of the things that are required by the government of Ontario if you are in an unpaid internship. Okay, so training has to be relevant to your degree, to what you're studying. The training is for the benefit of you, and the employer derives minimal benefit. It does not replace someone else in the job. They can't hire you because you're cheaper than somebody who's more experienced. The employer can't promise a job at the end of the training, and the employer must clearly state that you will not be paid. So everything has to be upfront. But if you ever are in a position like this, in an unpaid internship, remember, the only value that should be extracted from this is for you, okay? It's not for the employer. And if it's otherwise, then we certainly would be in trouble in terms of the Ontario government rules. Just as an aside, many of you will get into co-op, some of you won't. So typically, and we'll probably do this in late March or April, we have, we'll do a little workshop on, okay, so if not co-op, what else? How do I get degree relevant work on my transcript or on my resume? And so from the perspective of McMaster Faculty of Science, there is an internship code. And this is as close to co-op as you could possibly get. There are a lot of similarities. So Science 3 IEO, and it's Science 3 IFO, IGO, IHO. So there's 4 of them, because the internship can be 4, 8, 12, or 16 months. So potentially, you could get exactly the same amount of work experience you get in co-op. It must be full-time work, so you can't be going to school. It must be paid, okay? It must be degree relevant. You must have taken 2 COOPs, so you're already there. So this may be something that many of you will consider. I have worked with lots, and I oversee the application process for this. The biggest difference here, the similarities are that, like co-op students, we do a site visit with anyone on an internship. We go and we talk to the student, we talk to the employer. There's an evaluation, there's reflections, there's a work term report. But the very biggest difference between internship and a co-op is that you don't, in an internship, you don't get the support of our office team, our co-op team. You don't get a job board that's just for you. The student has to come up with the opportunity themselves. And I know you're going to start hating me, but back to the math and stats students, they seem to be the most successful ones at finding internships because banks often have internships. It's just something that they do. Less so in others, sometimes industry, but it's definitely something that you should consider if co-op doesn't work for you. Okay, so, and we'll talk more about this later, and hopefully you'll be able to come to the workshop that we do around experiential ed. Just be patient in terms of follow-up. If you have reached out or had an interview with someone or touched base, it's okay to tap them again and say, hey, did you forget about me? Or do you have an answer yet? In terms of COVID, many things have shifted. I'm sure, I mean, literally, many things have shifted in the way we do things. And the thing is, a lot of us have to alter our goals and expectations around what the types of experience and where we're going to get that experience are. I see things starting to change and open up now and get back to quote, quote, normal. But it's slow, okay? But maybe change your expectations if you have. And this is a brilliant time for an informational interview, okay? You can talk to people all over the world. We're all meeting online. It's normal now, right? So why not utilize that ability and the normalcy of connecting in that way to reach out to organizations in which you might be interested. So that is the end of our session today. So questions around job search. I know, I'm really sorry, it's really a dry lecture. Again, ideas about how we can make this better would be much appreciated. Does anyone have questions about job search or anything that we've covered so far? So it's lunchtime. Happy Valentine's Day, Valentine's Day, Valentine's Day, whatever it is for you. Have a treat this weekend. Have a great weekend, and I will see you next week.